Hello, hello, hello. Hold on, we're telling more followers to join. Hello, everyone. I feel like I'm reading the news today. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Friarhouse Live. I'm so excited because we've got a really, really interesting lady coming on, just about to come on, Sarah Nahama. Who's an art historian, antique jewellery historian, a lecturer, and an author of a book about antique mourning jewellery in Death Lamented. Oh, hi, Celia. Hi, thank you so much for joining. I think this is going to be... Hi, Hannah. Hey, Hannah's listening today. She's not joining me. I think you can actually have more than one on a live, actually. But anyway, no, I don't think I could cope with more than one other person for now. Right, I'm about to ask Sarah Nahama to join. And if any of you have got any questions that you'd like to ask her as we go along, I'll try and keep and look to see if there's any comments coming up that you want to ask her anything, because it's going to be so interesting, because she is actually a jewellery lecturer. So you're going to get a lot of information today, guys. So if there's anything that you'd like to ask her, please feel free, and we'll try and see your question and ask. I find it quite difficult looking at your comments and thinking about what I'm talking about. I'm one of these people that, like I can't do everything all at once, but anyway, I'll try my best. Right, I'm going to see if Sarah is there. Just bear with me. She hasn't joined yet. She needs to join for me to invite her. Let's see. Come on then. So I've invited her. Ah, there you are.
Here
Oh, hi.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you really well.
Oh.
That was very smooth, I must say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was getting a little bit nervous there that you weren't going to appear.
Oh, no. I'm here. I'm ready.
Thank you for joining me. No, I had someone the other week. I don't think he was familiar with Instagram, and I just couldn't get him to join the live. So I was talking to myself for about 25 minutes. And I had to abandon it. But thankfully, that's not the case today, because you are here.
Here I am.
Sarah, I've got so much to ask you, and I feel privileged that you've come on to my chat this afternoon to talk, because I know that you are a lecturer. That is what you do for a living, isn't it? So as well as being a collector.
I do a lot of things. I do lecture, yes. I do, but that's not exclusive.
It's not your main living. No.
Yeah.
So, well, now is your chance to tell everyone. So one of the things I wanted to first start out, because we actually, hey guys, we actually met in real life, didn't we, Sarah? A few months ago.
I recognized you at Portobello.
Yes. Yeah. And it was like an Instagram moment, wasn't it? It was like, I know you, you know me.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that.
And it's like stepping out of the gram for a bit.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I've met so many wonderful people from Instagram in real life too, sometimes planned and sometimes just, at one of my talks or at a show. So it's great. It's been great.
You feel like you've met a long lost friend, don't you? That's how.
Yeah.
It's almost slightly, there's a bit more to it. I don't know if that's true, but it feels like, I think because we've all got this common interest of antique jewellery that's brought us all together, and we could talk for hours. But anyway, I'll get on, because I've got so much to ask you, and I don't want to have you on here all day, because I'm sure you've got other things to do. But the first thing I wanted to say was how did you get into this rabbit hole of antique jewelry? How did it start? What was the ignition in this crazy world?
Well, I remember as a child going through my mother's jewelry box, and she had things from her mother and grandmother that I used to look at. I didn't really get into it until, I mean, I liked antique jewelry, I liked antiques, and I liked collecting things. So way back, I collected records, vinyl records, and I collected postcards. I did end up studying art history, and I loved it. And then, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do further with that. So I just for the fun of it, I took a jewelry making class, and I loved that. I always liked doing something hands-on. And so I decided to study jewelry making, which I did in Boston, Massachusetts. I did a 2-year program. And then I was one day looking at antique jewelry online, and I found a tiny little brooch that said "in memory of Sarah." And I was so curious about it. It had hair in it. And that's really what started me down the rabbit hole of mourning jewelry, which is my focus is really that.
Yes.
I'm not an antique jewelry expert at all. It's very kind of a niche
exactly
genre that I collect, and it extends to sentimental jewelry, of course, but that's kind of how it was the little "in memory of Sarah" brooch that started me on the whole thing.
Such a lovely story. Of course, that's your name. And did you ever sort of find out who Sarah was, or you? I suppose that's like people often ask me things like that.
There was no information. It was just the name. There was no. I mean, I can date it based on the style to around 1820 or so, but there was nothing else to go on.
No, so you just, but I think you were meant to have that because it's obviously started your passion and your love of antique jewelry, and especially your interest and passion of mourning jewelry.
Right.
Because my next question was going to be, do you have a particular period or movement of jewelry that interests you? And obviously you've already answered that, because we know that mourning jewelry is your passion, and that's what you specialize in. Is there a particular when I say movement, like something in history that happened that has that you are particularly interested in a year's period? Is it more Georgian, or?
I like the style of Georgian jewelry better certainly than late Victorian, although I like that too. But I'm very interested in, what sticks in my mind is the two events, the death of Prince Albert and the American Civil War. That, we're around the American Civil War. It was just a few years after Albert died, and then also the assassination of President Lincoln. So that whole era is very interesting to me. But as far as stylistically, I would say I tend to gravitate towards earlier jewelry. And that's what I collect more of. You'll find more of that. I am very drawn to sepia miniatures, whether they be rings, lockets, brooches.
Do you have so you're drawn to those? Have you got a collection of those that you could show us?
Well, I do, and I can't show you all of them, but I actually just took out one piece.
That would be fine, because we can't show everything today.
Well, I mean, I have a few things to show. I tried to pick things that were larger.
Yes, that's a good idea.
I find it's very hard for people to see, but I will hold up. It's a little hard to see because of the glare. There we go.
Wow.
So this is a mourning miniature for a mother.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's all done in sepia ink and macerated or pulverized hair. And then on the
It's wonderful,
reverse,
isn't it?
you've got beautiful woven hair, and on the little ivory plaque, it says sacred to the memory of an affectionate mother.
Oh,
Yeah,
doesn't it
it's a
just touch your
beautiful
heart? That's
thing.
amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah,
And Sarah, because I've got like a stack of questions here, but that could be relevant to this miniature. Because
sure.
one of the things that I particularly love in jewelry, and it's not even necessarily in Georgian, it follows through to later to Victorian and even in some Edwardian, the symbols. So the symbolic meaning behind a weeping willow, a tomb, a swallow, the birds lifting from a tomb, the night sky, all of these symbols. Because I did send you some of the questions earlier,
Yeah.
and I mean, do they have a specific representation, or is it just in the artist at the time?
They do. I mean, there's a whole, and I've done lectures just on symbolism.
Yes.
Because, I mean, and some of it is very obvious.
Yes.
Like you have the weeping willow, which represents, and you find these in cemeteries too.
Of course.
But it represents human grief. And oftentimes you'll see the willow overarching on the, you know, the scene, the person weeping over an urn or, you know, a tomb. So you have, so something like that is pretty obvious. Yes. The urn, which is really such an ubiquitous symbol, stands for the body, the sacred remains. Yes. Even though people weren't being cremated at that time, at least, you know, we're talking about Western European culture and American culture. They weren't being cremated when, say, something like that was created, but they're looking back to classical imagery, and the urn stands for the human remains. So it figures very prominently. And sometimes you see it almost outsized, you know, bigger than trees depicted. So yes, you can get into all of these symbols. And what's interesting too is that there's a big crossover with jewels of love, so that are not mourning. Right, that are sentimental in nature, and you can find birds, you can find dogs, you can find pansies and forget-me-nots in both mourning and sentimental jewelry.
Because mourning and sentimental jewelry with all these different symbols, and it crosses through to even things like jet, you know, where you can have, often I've had over the years, carved acorn earrings.
Sure.
And I suppose acorns in themselves that are carved in jet, acorn is like rebirth. Is that right, Sarah?
Yeah, yeah.
Significant to an acorn.
I mean, yeah, it's symbolic of the oak tree. It's, you know, yeah. And so it is exactly that. You know, the oak is also strength and, you know, the life force.
Yes.
And the acorn, the rebirth. Yes, exactly. You find that. Mm-hmm. So you can find that. You find that with mourning jewelry and sentimental jewelry as well.
And you're, I want to move over because you've written a book.
Yep.
And the title of your book is in Death Lamented. Is that right?
In Death Lamented.
In Death Lamented. Sorry,
yeah,
that's me saying it too.
Lamented. I have it here. It'll show up backwards, but in Death Lamented, the tradition of Anglo-American mourning jewelry.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. How long did it take you? Can I ask you to write the book?
It took me, well, let me preface it by saying the book was written in conjunction with an exhibition that I co-curated with the Massachusetts Historical Society. They're the oldest historical society in the US.
Wow.
And I had volunteered there to catalog their collection, partly because I wanted hands-on to a lot of what they have. They have a very extensive collection of mourning jewelry. And so I did that, and I proposed to them, let's do an exhibition. You have a lot of wonderful things. I'll be happy to loan things to you. You have the status to be able, that we could borrow from other institutions, which we did. And then we were going to just do a little pamphlet, a little catalog to pass out, and it just ended up morphing into a book, which came out right before the exhibit went on at the end of 2012. So it took me, I would say it took me a good 8 or 9 months. I had a very stern editor who, she was great because left to my own devices, I can just kind of, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. But
yeah, knuckling down to write something, I can
so
imagine it's
there
very,
were
very focused.
deadlines. Yeah, there were. And I had already, for my own jewelry, I have, every time I buy something, I catalog it. So, and I do as much research as I can. So I already had that. And being a jeweler, I know the material, so I had that too. And then some of the other things, you know, we had people that worked there at the society that would fill in some of the historical information of pieces that they own, where they came from. A lot of times they were gifted with family papers and so forth. So
I can
yeah.
imagine it must have been so popular because, you know, in the last 10 or 20 years, the US, I feel, have really enlightened into the world of antique jewellery much more than it was 20 odd years ago. So I think you must be a fantastic asset to the United States, bringing your knowledge to the table. And one thing I want to say, and it's come up a few times in lives with people like you, because I tend to ask people, I feel I've got a something, you know, like we've met in real life and we got on, that I don't call myself an expert. You know, I feel like I'm learning all the time. And you said to me immediately, you said, please don't call me an expert. And I don't call, you know, I know that you're a very knowledgeable lady and you're very passionate and you've got a lot to you know, to your collection, and your knowledge is vast. But I think whoever could call themselves an expert, life is full of learning, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm always learning. I always learn new things, and I love it. You know, sometimes too, I'll post something. Here's a real quick example. I bought what was sold to me through an auction as a shoe buckle, a very early 1709, something like that. Beautiful mourning shoe buckle. And the V&A has very similar examples that are identified as shoe buckles. Well, there was only one in a case, which was a little strange because usually they come in pairs.
Yeah, of course.
And I posted it, and a few people in the community in England said to me, no, that's not a shoe buckle, that's a waist buckle. I said, oh no, these are just like the V&A has, and they say they're shoe buckles. Well, it turns out they were right.
Wow.
They are not, they was not a shoe buckle. And actually the V&A is wrong in their identification. And it was something like that was so valuable to me, to have people come and correct me and give me examples. And I value that so much. You know, I don't know everything. How can I?
I've had times where I've posted something and I've made a mistake, and someone has nicely messaged me, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you. How do you learn if you're not corrected, right?
That's exactly right. How do you learn? You can't know everything. And, you know, I value this interchange that I've had so many times with people. And part of the passion for me, it's not just collecting and having all these things to myself, but it's sharing it and sharing the knowledge. So oftentimes my posts, because I sell as well, but, you know, so I share my own parts of my own collection or things I might find at an institution, or even something I sell. I like to give a history of it, be it if I've researched the person that it's for, because oftentimes I found quite a lot of history, or the symbolism or the style, the materials. And I love doing that, and people seem to respond very well.
I think this is what I try to do as well, is I'm so grateful for my Instagram platform and to be able to reach out to you and other people. And I think in life, what we learn, and we should share our knowledge, and that is part of life's journey. So that's why I'm so keen to do my lives, because you and I chatting, hopefully someone maybe who knows nothing about jewelry that's watching this, you know, oh, thank you, a cup of tea has just miraculously appeared.
Oh, nice.
But, you know, and I think in life, whatever you do, you know, if you have a platform like Instagram with a fair audience, you should really use it to share, you know, obviously your pieces you sell, but also information so that you help people.
Yes.
And I think that is so important. One thing I wanted to ask, how did you come across the name In Death Lamented? What does that mean? Is that like...
That's a good question. So I had a brooch that said, "In death lamented, as in life beloved." And it's a motto I've seen on other pieces of jewelry. I've seen it in rings. So there's certain mottos that one finds, particularly in Georgian jewelry. I mean, later Victorian, you get into the in memory of. But in death lamented, or affection weeps, heaven rejoices.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
You know, there's certain ones that one sees often, or, you know, from time to time. And In Death Lamented was one of them. And we just liked it. We thought, you know, that works. So
it definitely works. And is that so? Because I've said to you about, you did your exhibition, and then that in turn you decided to write the book.
Well, the book came first.
Oh,
the book came in conjunction. Really, it was happening at the same time. So by the time the exhibition opened at the end of 2012, the book was published and ready to go. So
because I had a few people ask, Sarah, because I've been plugging you all week.
Thank you. I know.
and lots of people have been contacting me. They wanted to get the book, so I think they could look through it as we were talking. I looked, I couldn't see it on Amazon. Do you know, can you tell everyone maybe where they could get it?
Right here from me. Ooh. They can message me on Instagram. I have copies.
I'd like to buy one from you as well, because I haven't got the book. So
I can sign for you. And I know I don't know what's going on, because I can get copies directly from the Historical Society, so I don't know what's going on. But I saw somebody had sent me a request, like, do you have any of your books for cheaper than this? And they sent me an Amazon listing for my book for $1,800. And I said, what? What's going on with that? It was crazy. And then I saw one on eBay for $600.
Well, so you're in demand.
So, everybody, please, you know, contact me. They're $35 plus shipping.
No, well, I definitely, because that's a night, whenever I can, I always buy historical books on jewelry, or anything jewelry related, or, you know, specific designers that I'm interested in. Because even if I don't have time to read it, and let's face it, who has time to meticulously read everything? But I think even if you're just having a lunch break or a coffee, you can sit and just browse.
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
Yeah, and there's a lot of good photographs. I wanted to show, actually, the little brooch that started it all.
Show us.
Is right here. So it's tiny. It's not, obviously, it's hard to tell from the picture.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a lot of good pictures in here. I start with Memento Mori, as, you know, the symbolism from that, getting into the early, you know, late 17th century, early 18th century jewelry and so forth. But yeah, so yeah, I have copies.
And when you, because you've got your collecting and your lecture side, but then you've got your selling side. And what I know you said that you specialize in particularly buying mourning jewelry, and you particularly like early 18th, late 17th, early 18th century. Do you, because I know you come to England, that's where we met a while ago.
Yeah.
When you come to buy, Sarah, do you have it sounds really funny, but do you have a shopping list of, I mean, how can you have a shopping list of Georgian jewellery? But what are you sort of drawn to? What are you looking for? Tell me.
Sometimes I'm actually looking for clients that tell me, can you see if you can find me X?
Really?
So I'm actually, and then I can take pictures and send it to them. And they can tell me, ask questions or so forth. For my own personal collection, I just feel like I know it when I see it.
That's exactly how
and it
I
may
am,
not even be mourning jewelry. I have bought other things too.
Yeah.
That are just because I like them or I'm fascinated with them. And so, yeah, I don't really, other than looking for clients, I don't really come with a shopping list.
And another thing, I know, again, because I filled you in earlier, but one of the things that I'm curious about, and that is how much damage you would accept in something, because for instance, like sepia miniatures, sadly, they're on ivory and they could be dropped and cracked in half. And I've had things before where obviously over time someone's very delicately glued them together, so you can just about see the crack. But would that be a complete no-no for you, buying something if it has any damage?
That's a great question. And obviously we all like things that are in excellent condition. If something is unique and historically important or just unusual, I will accept some damage. And I could go on for an hour about this because there's different types of damage.
Yeah.
I have bought things, and I've had things, for example, with portrait miniatures, I've had some things restored. There are good people that can do that kind of work. That if some of the paint has flaked off, for example, I can do some minor things. Some stuff I don't like to touch, but because I'm a jeweler, I can usually open up a case and I've taken brooches apart. There was one I had with the tiny little seed pearls that were all scattered all over, and
oh my goodness,
I put them back in place.
hard.
I know it was painstaking, but it's okay. And other things I can't do, like enamel restoration, but I know people that can do certain things.
Yeah, like we all do. I think we've all got, when we've been doing this a long time, we know people, and often I've got people that I know in my workshop. There's not one chap that does one specific job. Yeah. They're usually particularly talented either at setting, or soldering.
I mean, I have a local jeweler in Boston who has a laser welder, which I don't have. So, for example,
you need
if a jump ring at the top has come off, and nobody's doing lead soldering anymore, thank goodness, it's a big mess.
Sarah, have you seen on the question here, sorry to interrupt you, Doriso one, I have a brooch, my husband dropped it and a little bit of the wire bow inside broke, would that be restorable?
Possibly. I mean, it would have to be opened, and the wire piece taken out, and then somebody would have to be able to solder it together, and then put back inside, adhered to wherever it was. I mean, that's something that a jeweler who specializes in antique jewelry would have to see and then make a determination.
Yeah. So, I mean, but one thing that I say to people, and especially about very early jewelry, mourning jewelry, and these really beautiful fine pieces, when they are slightly damaged, I think, my God, they're over 200 years old. They've lived a life. Even when sometimes we find them and they're absolutely perfect, I'm quite astonished, because I gather probably they weren't even used and maybe just kept in a safe or somewhere,
Well, certainly that's the case with a lot of the mourning rings, especially the early 18th century and up until, even the latter third of the 18th century. These were passed out at funerals.
Yes.
Not just the enameled ones, but even the plain gold ones. So, for example, something like this. It's a little hard to see, but you can see it says remembrance of affection.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, where that's got the black enamel in the middle and the white lines around the edge. Now, is that true when it's white enamel? It's a child, isn't it?
Not always.
Okay.
It's a child. It could be a person that's not married. Oops, there's my telephone ringing, which I'm going to silence. I've seen it for clergy from time to time. But oftentimes these rings were made with the dark enamel with white borders, and that's not really for a child.
No. Because I've seen those wide bands that you've got there. Often you get them with the carving, don't you? The heavy carving around the edge with roses.
Yeah.
Is there a significance to those?
Well, I mean, the roses are indicative of love. You often have acanthus, scrolling acanthus, which is
acanthus, yes.
Yeah, that's symbolic of, you know, life, eternal, and so forth. So yeah, thistles I've seen, which sometimes have a Scottish relation, but not always. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole study on florography, and
I love that word, florography. What a fantastic word.
Isn't it? It is. Yes, it is.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so much to.
We could go on forever. I mean, I don't know how much time you have, and if you have to go, please, I don't want to keep you.
No, but, I'm good.
You're good, because I've still got loads of questions.
That's fine. You. I'm happy to stick around.
One of the things, Sarah, that I thought, oh, shall I ask you this? And because you've seen my email, and I do want to touch on to this because it's one of those subjects that I think comes up a lot, and it can do on Instagram as well, and that is reproductions.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years I've had eye miniatures, and I've had intricate discussions with people who I really respect in the UK, dealers like Pat Novissimo and Michelle Rowan and Charlotte Sayers, and I've shown them things and had their opinion and chatted to them about whether they think it's a genuine one. And it's difficult to know now, isn't it? And there are quite a few reproductions out there, which is scary. What's your take on them?
Well, there's a difference between a reproduction and a fake. So a reproduction can be something that's made in the style of, or almost to look exactly like something earlier, but it's not, passed on as this is a Georgian piece or this is a Memento Mori piece. It's identified as, a reproduction, and that's fine. As long as it's disclosed, that's fine. A fake is when somebody passes it off as a genuine article,
being deceitful,
and it's not. Yes, the eye miniatures, they are, and you can see from really crudely done, horrible ones, to some very well done ones.
Yes, I agree.
And even auction houses I've seen sell collections that a lot of them are not genuine, but they're they're not terrible looking, but they often don't know themselves. No. It's not, they don't know. The other thing that is faked a lot is people seem to really like things with skulls. And again, that
was my next question. Stuart crystals with the skulls.
There's a lot of fakes of those. And the sad thing is somebody will sell it and they know it's fake. And then an innocent person will buy it who really doesn't know. And they think it's genuine, and then they resell it, and they're not trying to be deceitful.
No, of course not.
They don't know, So I think the best thing is education, self-education, talking to other people, looking at lots of things, watching auctions, you know, looking in books, going to museums, talking to dealers. And as if you can get hands-on, that's the best bet. Educate yourself a little bit about how things are constructed and, you know, styles and so forth. And that
I
will
think
often.
that's one of the hallmarks I have looked at over the years, as you've just rightly pointed out. Educate yourself and look at how things are made. I mean, you are a jeweler, so I think that might come as second nature to you. But sometimes, Sarah, I can view something with a loop, look at it one day, and then pick it up and look at it 2 days later, and there's something I've missed, and it was there. And I think you only sometimes see what you want to see. I don't know if you know what I mean.
I absolutely do. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I put a post up where I had bought a ring, and it was really the, I don't know, syndrome of wishful thinking, that I bought something that I actually really couldn't see very well in the listing. And sure enough, when I got it, it was a mess. It was, the face of the ring was genuine with hair and enamel. It was French, but it had been put in a setting that didn't fit. The band was all wrong. There was lead solder. It was a big, huge mess. And I really shouldn't have bought it because I couldn't see it properly. And the seller didn't really provide additional information.
No.
But I kept hoping, right? That's the worst way to make a decision. And I always tell people, if you can't see it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
And don't just don't go on a wish.
As dealers, our heart rules us sometimes, doesn't it? I don't know if anyone else agrees listening.
I think a lot do. A lot of people understand exactly.
Sarah, did you see, there's a lady here, a Suzanne Jerry, if a Georgian Stuart era piece has a foil that is damaged, do you recommend replacing a foil? What would you say?
I wouldn't even know how to do it myself. No. Those are hard to open. And I've heard of people opening them, but the crystal, because it's faceted, can get chipped very easily.
Don't touch it, I'd say.
Don't touch it. Yeah, don't touch. I wouldn't.
No, I think I'm completely with you. I think if I've had anything like that, I wouldn't even attempt. I mean, I do know jewelers, you know, up in Hatton Garden in London, all over, that can do things, but I don't know, sometimes something just has to be left and you just have to love it for what it is. And you know, accept it for what it is. And okay, sometimes pieces aren't 100%, they aren't perfect. I do think also, don't you think, Sarah, that price is significant here? Because if I see something that's slightly damaged, but I think the price is reflective of that, I'll still buy it. How about you?
Yes, I mean, I have bought, like I was saying before, I have bought things that are damaged that I, you know, keep even with no hopes of necessarily restoring it, just because it's so unusual and so unique. And again, it depends how much damage. You know, there's some things that I really can't stand. Lead solder is one of them.
Oh, no,
it's just a big mess. It's unsightly.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold also, so things often break that are done. That lead solder, for people who don't know, is a very low melting solder. It does, I think today now they make it without lead, but it was called lead solder. It is still called that because it had a lead component, which can melt very easily, but it's not secure. It's not really, and it's ugly. It's dark gray. You see it, it goes everywhere. It starts pitting the metal the more you heat things up. It's just a mess. But now with laser welding, which can pinpoint an area, and you can do it in, you know, you need a machine to do it. You can get a very clean and unnoticeable.
It's so clever, isn't it? The lead,
it's
the
a
lasering.
It's saver for antique jewelry, really.
It's phenomenal, and I think any good jeweler should be able to do this. One other thing I wanted to ask you, Sarah, was where is your favourite place to, when you're going on a buying trip? Where would be your favourite place to source jewellery? You know, whether that's in the States or in the UK. Or do you not want to divulge that?
Well, no. I mean, actually, I love going to London. And I find a lot of things there. In the States, there's a big, and I didn't even go this year, there's a big antique market called
I've
Brimfield Antique
heard of
Market.
it. I'd love to
Of
go.
course. Oh,
I would
come. It's not that
love
far
to
from
go.
where I
We could walk
am.
around together. Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
fun?
I'm only about an hour and a half from there. It's in Western Massachusetts and it goes for miles. Now, you really have to sort through things because there's crap and there's some good things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of dealers in the States that I know that do it, sell there. So you can find good jewelry. You can find probably anything there.
Yeah.
But it's outside, and if it's raining, it's nasty. If it's too hot, it's uncomfortable, but it's definitely an experience,
It
and I
sounds very much
recommend it.
like Newark, which is in that sort of going up north in England, the Newark Antique Fair, which is coming up quite soon, I believe.
I've not been to that.
Yeah, I think you would enjoy that there. And that, I don't think it's as big as it used to be, but it's definitely, you can find all sorts of things there, you know, and you really are going on the hunt, you know, when you go there. Also, so you like, do you buy online? Do you buy from Instagram as well?
Oh yes. I mean, there's dealers who have become friends of mine.
Yeah.
Particularly in England, you know, that then I've met, but also in the States and other places as well, in Italy, in France, who I've purchased things from through Instagram, and that's been wonderful. Yeah, because then also I get to know the person. And I watch a lot of auctions. I look at eBay, which was actually very good at one point for mourning jewelry.
Yes, I remember
when I first started.
that, but not so much now, is it?
Now, were you selling, because I remember buying a piece from you and I was trying to look back in my catalog of jewelry.
Yes.
I don't remember if you went under another name or did you
sell on... I don't know if we did, but we used to sell on eBay. I don't know, probably over 20 years ago.
That's right. That's when I started, you know,
20
collecting.
years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe just before we started Friarhouse.com online. So we were selling on eBay from our shop. And funny enough, we used to sell watch parts, bits of jewelry that I'd get in big job lots. We would sell clock parts because my husband used to be a clock dealer. So we would sell anything and everything on there, and it would be low prices, good bargains. So you probably did, you know. We just put them on there to sell.
And I remember going to your website too. Yeah, because I know I bought something from you that far back.
Yeah, well, I must say though, I know the sort of things that you love, and I've had them over the years, but I'm not tending to buy them so much now, Sarah, because I see them and I love them. I mean, to me, that is pure antique jewelry. The you know, the mourning and memento mori and the sentimental jewelry, and I just think they're beautiful things and love them. But they just make so much money now. I just find, you know, I can't go anywhere further on them, and so I'm tending to stick to more Art Deco jewelry and the engagement rings and the more wearable everyday jewelry rather than the sort of collector's pieces. Do you know what I mean?
I do. We talked about that when we met in London. Yes, I do. I mean, you have to go where the money is too, you know, and what if things are just going to sit in your shop, that's not going to be good.
No.
You know, so yes, I fully understand. Now, I don't have a physical storefront either, so you know, I don't have that overhead of a physical storefront to maintain. I can just sell from my dining room at my computer, you know.
Well, I have to say now, since, you know, really since lockdown and things, and we've opened back up, most people, sort of 90% is online. Occasionally people do come to our shop. On Saturday, I had quite a busy day in the shop, and funnily enough, we had quite a lot of people through. We don't always get that, you know. We can have Saturday after Saturday and nobody come in here, and we might have a few inquiries online, but it's very much, it's quite a difficult market now. There's so many pop-up people selling jewelry that have just come even to life in the last few years. You know, whereas there's people like you and I that have been around a long time, and you know, some of the other dealers that I know well in London, but it's changed, and a little bit of that worries me, because although I said who could call themselves an expert, I don't call myself an expert, but I have experience behind me, as do you. And I think a lot of sellers that pop up, all they're doing is they're just copying things that they see online, and they're quite often getting it wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's worrying.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, because I mean, it's very easy to buy something and post it, and you know, if you have computer skills, post it, and
yes,
you know, write whatever you want. I mean, I do see that a lot, so that's true.
Yeah, so I think the point that we made earlier, if anybody's sort of watching this and wants to, you know, take some tips, is, you know, just be mindful about who's being transparent and honest. And I think one of the things is use your common sense. I think often is, if it doesn't feel right, doesn't smell right, do you know what? It's probably not right. And I think that's a big lesson.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that, Sarah. Well, what I wanted to talk to you now, so we'll sort of move away from that, is you create your own jewelry, don't you? You are a jeweler and a silversmith. Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah, that's actually, I started making jewelry before I started collecting mourning jewelry. So I was already doing that, and I work in silver and I work in high carat gold, and I tend to do kind of well, it's a classical style, but it's still kind of modern as well. And I don't know if anybody can see, but these are some of my 22 karat gold rings. These are actually 3 together that I stack.
Wow.
So you've got a pink tourmaline. This, it's hard to see, but it's a garnet crystal, androdite garnet. It's Japanese.
I love,
and this is
the color there. That's fantastic.
It's really.
Charlotte, could you get me an iPhone charger, please? My phone's really low. So my phone's really low, Sarah.
Okay, don't disappear. This is actually, was from an old pinchbeck fob seal. So this is glass, and it's my name. And I just set it upside down. I mean, you see it backwards here, but yeah, these are all 22 karat. And then this one is silver. I love working in silver as well. And I'm
I love
fascinated.
That one.
Yeah, this has an antique tintype photo of a young boy. It's American, circa 1865. So I make a lot of these. I call them ancestor rings. And then covering it is a rose cut rock crystal quartz.
Oh, wow.
So, because I love photographic jewelry. In fact, I wanted to show, here's a piece in my collection. It's a swivel brooch. So you have an ambrotype photo, which is on glass.
I've had a few of these over the years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then on the back is hair work. And it actually, you know, swivels so you can wear whichever side you want.
So just do you need to take a pin out of it? Because I've had something like that before, and you take the pin out to enable you to spin it round.
Well, you open the pin. Yeah. You have to open it, otherwise it won't
I
turn.
see, like that.
Yeah.
No, I think I've had one where you've actually had to like hook a pin out.
Oh no.
And has it got hair one side?
Yes, it has hair, 2 colors of hair.
So
woven.
What do you think? Is that likely the person that's died and the person is remembering?
I think this is a sentimental piece.
Yeah.
I tend to think that unless you have obvious symbols of mourning, an urn or a predominance of black enamel, let's say, and certainly a dedication, I would say that most of these things, even with hair, are sentimental pieces. So this would probably be perhaps for this gentleman's partner, and it's the hair of him and his partner. Yeah, I would say that. You know, obviously, if he dies, it can be reappropriated for mourning. You don't even really have to do anything to it. Perhaps engrave his name, and you know, you could do that along the bezel, right? You could put the dedication, you know,
there,
could be engraved.
I mean, something like that, Sarah. I mean, what do you think something like that, you would sell something like that for? Because if someone's watching and they'd like to maybe think about starting a collection, what do you think you'd have to pay? Because I'm out of touch.
Yeah, this is in excellent condition. It's all original. So the pins have not been replaced.
Yeah.
You can see it also has the original hook.
And is this one in high carat gold, or is it gold?
This is actually not gold.
It's pinchback, is it?
Actually rolled gold.
Yeah.
And a lot of the larger Victorian pieces that you find are gilt metal, gilt silver, and these components are also hollow.
Yeah.
So you can get the big look, right? And you would want that for your big clothes.
Need them to be hollow. If they were solid, it'd be too heavy.
Yeah, it'd be heavy. Yeah. And it's cheaper to produce this way.
Yes.
In fact, I don't know if you can see, but you see this piece right here at the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those vine leaves, are they vine leaves or oak leaves?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's hard to, I'm half blind also. But what I wanted to point out is that you can see on the back, it's just stamped out. It's not. I can see. It's not a big solid piece. So something like this, given the condition, you know, I like it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I would sell this for probably $750, $800.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that. Sarah, someone's asked us here, may we see the rings that Sarah is wearing today? I so covered her collection.
Nice.
And would like to see her every day go toss. I think that's what it says.
Okay, so these actually, I do wear these every day except when I'm working. They're just my signature, my own pieces that I wear. This I don't wear every day because this also, it's set pretty tight, but you don't want to get these things wet. This is on iron. It would get rusty if water got underneath. And I mean, obviously that goes for the mourning jewelry too. So I switch things out. And then, but you might want to see.
Yeah, let's have a look, guys.
Let me see if I can move my
I find it hard
phone.
I think that the followers can see, but all I can see is everybody watching. So I'm struggling to see. But I can see that,
Okay, it's a gigantic watch key winder.
Wow.
It's French, circa 1815, and it's all hair work, and it's double-sided.
The hair work is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
The hair work, they were such artists.
Oh my God.
Did that.
Yes. So I don't know how well everybody can see it. It's around my neck on a shortish chain, but you can see this is all applied palette work hair. This is not a mourning piece, and this actually is gold.
Wow.
Yeah, this is really a beauty.
Have you any pieces in your collection that you can attribute to nobility or anything like that, or even that have belonged to a certain person, a famous person? Or
I have a piece. Yes, I have a piece for Queen Caroline, who was the consort of George II.
Wow.
And it's a mourning ring for her. So it's an early Rococo band, which is a scroll ribbon band, and it has a rock crystal with some of her hair in it. And then it says around the band in the sections, it says Carolina Regina, and then the date of her death and the age, I think 56. She died in 1737. It's in perfect condition.
She was young.
And I'll just tell you briefly, some people have probably heard this story.
I want to hear. Please tell me. I love this.
So I got it years ago, and I did get it on eBay.
Wow.
And when I saw it, and the listing did say, and it was an American seller, mostly he sold clocks. The listing did say mourning ring, and obviously the date is on there. But I think a lot of Americans don't know Regina or Rex, what it means.
No.
And so he made up a story that what he said was the Carolina Regina was a ship that sank. And this is a mourning ring for the people that died on the ship. I mean, just out of thin air. And I just went, what? And all I had to do was look up Queen Caroline and put in the dates. And of course she came up. So I was able to get it for a very good price and laugh, you know, too.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What a find. That's an incredible story. I love that.
It's a great find because I
Yeah.
haven't seen, I mean, it was again something that was passed out at the funeral. It would have probably been given to, you know, multiples would have been made. So this type of ring would have probably been given to perhaps one of her attendants,
Right.
somebody in the court, not her husband, you know, that would have been much, anybody in her family would have been much more elaborate ring, I would think. But yeah, it's quite rare, and that's the only thing I have. I've had things for dukes, baron, baronet, duchess. Yeah, I've had things like that.
I think I have actually over the years. I
Yeah.
bought off a very good friend of mine, a dealer from in Bologna,
Mm.
and I had a beautiful big rose diamond cluster ring. In fact, they weren't rose diamonds; they were actually table cut
Oh,
diamonds,
beautiful.
and it was sort of late 17th century ring, and closed back. I mean, and they were big diamonds. It's probably the best ring I've ever had. I sold it to I don't want to say because they probably won't want me to say on here, but quite a big dealer in London.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much it would have gone on for, but there was a funny story because the lady that I bought it off, she said to me that it belonged to a duchessa, I think, and had been passed down. And the chap that her husband, I think, had been playing away from home, and she was absolutely furious with him. So she just decided that she'd take all the jewelry and just sell it. So and I had to see my friend in Italy, and she knew the ring was likely to be English, and said, "Would you like to buy it?" And it was a lot of money, you know. It was a lot of money. I remember phoning my husband back in England. This was like 20 odd years ago, and I said, "Look, you know, I want to buy this ring." It was over 10,000, and he was like, "Oh," and I said, "But I said, all I can tell you is it's absolutely incredible." I mean, they were big diamonds, and they were beautiful diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful diamonds. I have got a picture of it somewhere on my phone, but if ever I saw it again, I'd recognize it. But when you think about, because they were big stones, the time when that ring was made, you know, pretty incredible, you know, to get diamonds of that quality.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just glad, Sarah, I don't know how you feel, but just to have owned them and just to have them in my hands just for a short period of time. And that's one of the bonuses about what we do, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you know, for example, when I was doing cataloging at the Massachusetts Historical Society, they have a diamond ring that you know, John Adams, President John Adams bought for his wife from Paris, and he was known to be rather stingy and cheap. So it was a beautiful diamond ring, and it was, I'm sure, you know, very treasured. It was gorgeous. So things like that, hair of George Washington, hair of Abraham Lincoln, to see these things and to just be able to hold them, it was incredible, quite incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I also would say to people is, you know, like we were saying about educating yourself, is in England, you know, I would say go to the V&A, go to the British Museum.
Absolutely.
In the States, where can you visit? Is there any good museums? I mean, obviously you've got the Met in New York.
Yep. You have the Met, you have you know, a lot of historical societies. The New York Historical Society in New York City has a good collection. Now, sometimes these things are not on view,
Right.
but being a public institution, you can make an appointment. I know you can at the Massachusetts Historical
You
Society.
can, I think you can do that at the V&A actually. I think you
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
And the Yale Center for British Art in Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. Also, they have an excellent collection of mourning miniatures.
Wow. And that's in Connecticut.
Yeah. In fact, there's a wonderful book called oh, the name escapes me, but you know,
it'll come to you in a minute. We'll talk about something
right.
else,
I mean,
and then it'll come to you.
anybody,
That's how my brain works.
if I say anything that people want to know more about or have questions that we don't get to, please feel free to message me on Instagram.
Sarah. Absolutely.
Yeah, message me and I'll answer you. Yeah, I think it's Love and Loss is the name of the book. It's a beautiful book, beautifully done.
I said to you it would come
Yeah.
back to you. So apart from your book, In Death Lamented,
Lamented.
Lamented, In Death Lamented.
Yeah.
What else? Are there any other books that you would recommend?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the book on Georgian jewelry is wonderful.
Oh, I always say about
Yeah,
that. That's like
that
my number one go-to.
anything by Diana Scarisbrick,
Oh, she's
I think.
amazing.
Also, and it's not really, this gets into a lot of earlier jewelry and also amulets, which I love. But if anybody's familiar with the gallery Les Illumineurs, which they're in New York and I think they have an office in Paris. Now, they specialize in medieval manuscripts, but also they do have a lot of jewelry that comes through, and they will often put on an exhibit. So, for example, if anybody's familiar with the Zucker collection of rings, they showed a number of pieces from that. They do publish books. And also, obviously, one of my main go-tos is the Coke collection, which is cataloged by Beatrice Chador Sampson. She's in London. And in fact, I took a great class on love jewelry, love token jewelry from her through, online through the V&A.
Wow.
But her books she wrote a great book on love jewels. She's great.
I must get that.
Oh yeah,
I haven't heard of that.
Her books are great.
Maybe you could DM me that afterwards.
I can. Yeah,
Sarah.
or anybody, if you have questions about books. I mean, mourning jewelry, when I first started, there was a book that came out. The photos are not so great on a lot of it, but it's a good resource. It's just called Mourning Jewelry and Art, I believe, by Maureen Delorme. Let's see, off the top of my head. So the Coke collection books, and they're hard to find and they're expensive, but they're 2 volumes and they're just rings. But I mean, the collection is incredible. It's housed,
I definitely want to get that.
It's housed in Zurich, the collection. You can go see it.
Yeah.
And what else? Well, message me. I can put together, I probably should put together a bibliography. Also in my book, there are references.
Because I often get asked when people are thinking of buying or starting a collection, or they just are interested in jewelry and would like to buy some books. And I mean, let's face it, Sarah, if you can't afford maybe to buy the jewelry, most people can afford the money to maybe buy a book, and even just look at a book is lovely, isn't it? Just to have that.
Absolutely.
So I think I bought a book recently, and I on tiaras, Geoffrey Munn, and oh my God, it's a fantastic book on this huge exhibition of tiaras that he did. And I shared that on my Instagram, and so many people. I think he did an exhibition in the 90s at Wartski when he worked there, and I would have loved to have gone and seen it, but I don't know. I was doing jewelry then, but I think too involved. I had a market stall at Bermondsey. It was way before I had the shop.
Okay, yep, I've been there.
Yeah. Well, Bermondsey is like one of the original antique markets. It's you must have seen me there at some point. I can imagine when I was there.
I went only once, and it wasn't that long ago.
Oh no,
it was probably
I went there years ago.
2017, yeah.
I went there years ago. I think we'll start rounding it up now, Sarah. But I've got. Will you be writing another book? Do you think? That's one of the things I was going to ask you.
Yes, but I'm not going to divulge any more details right now. Yeah. Yes.
That's very, very exciting. I think. Well, I'm sure a lot of people on here are watching, and if they haven't got the book you've already written, they can grab that.
Me. I'm happy to send it. I can ship anywhere in the world. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that sounds great. And I'm going to round it down now, because I think I've more or less covered everything that we were talking about. It's been so interesting. I mean, we could go on for there's so much we could chat about, but I know you've got to get on. And I'm going to move away from jewelry, just like rounding it down now. Have you got a favorite movie?
Yeah, I do. It's probably, well, I wouldn't say it's obscure, but I don't know how many people have heard of it. It's by a Ukrainian director, and it's called Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors in English.
Wow, I've never heard of it. Tell me more.
Well, it's kind of a Romeo and Juliet story, but with witchcraft and the scenery. I mean, the costumes and the scenery. It's filmed in the Carpathian Mountains.
Wow.
And it's just visually so arresting. The director's name is Sergei Parayanov, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah.
And he's done other films that are also beautiful. The Color of Pomegranates is one. Another is Ashik Karib. I also really like the films of Werner Herzog, the German director. Agir, The Wrath of God is one of my favorites, again, because it's so, and that takes place in the jungles of the Amazon, and it deals with the Spanish conquistadors.
There's history themes all through these movies, isn't there?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's more the visuals, which is why I love them. But I mean, just you'll kind of laugh, and I laugh at myself too, because I'm a very peaceful, loving person, and yet like to relax, I watch crime shows. That's what I like to, especially the English ones.
Well, the funny thing is, Sarah, we've got something in common there, because I like reading crime books, and I like watching crime shows, and I'm fascinated by serial killers. Now, sorry everyone, I'm not a weirdo.
I know. I'm not like
peaceful, kind person.
I wouldn't put an ant outside rather than let it die. But
I'm the same.
But I like the crime shows.
I don't know. I think for me, I'm just fascinated by their minds. Or how the hell do they think? And it's because the human psyche, there's so much more, isn't there, to what goes on than any of us know.
Right.
It's a strange world, all this with AI and everything. I think, it scares me really. And then I was going to ask, if you could have a dinner guest, any dinner guest, and they can be alive or deceased, who would you invite?
I would invite David Bowie.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. You've said that. Oh, I love David Bowie.
I mean, there's many people I could think of, but I think he's so fascinating as an artist, and he's very erudite, and he was very tapped into the art world as well, not just music. And just my cousin died a few years ago, quite young, taken too early. He was a songwriter and musician, very talented. It was very sad, but I did a eulogy at his funeral, and he had I played the Spaceman, David Bowie. He wanted that. I mean, I say he wanted that played. He didn't say that to me, but I felt like he told me that he wanted that played. I know that sounds a bit bonkers, but anyway, yeah. So I did, and it was I had lots of people turn up from the music business that he knows in the UK and movie, because he was involved with movies as well, and it was an amazing. It felt like a celebration of his life. It didn't feel sorrowful or more. It didn't feel sad. It's fun, isn't it, sometimes how life can be like that. Absolutely.
So and I think funny thing that I should end on that with you, because that's basically really what you and I are talking about with the jewelry that we're talking about, isn't it? It's souls that have come and gone, stories that have passed us by, lives that have lived and gone on, and these little jewels are still here. They're incredible, isn't it?
It's really fascinating. I mean, it's really connects us as human beings, I think, because love and grief are two, huge human emotions that we all feel.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, Love and Grief, that could be a book in itself, couldn't it? What we've just said there.
Yeah.
But oh, Sarah, do you know, thank you. Honestly,
thank you, Victoria. So thank you.
I don't know about anybody else watching or listening, but I could talk to you. We could go off in tangents, all different directions of things to talk about. And when you come to London again, please contact me. I'd love to meet you for coffee. Or come to a lecture, or you know, and I'm going to talk to you afterwards because I want to buy your book and get you to sign it for me.
Yeah. And come visit.
I want to visit to Broomfield.
Yeah, next May, because they have it in July. It's not that great, and September as well. But May is really the Broomfield.
Got a date. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right.
Because I want to come to New York anyway, so maybe I can.
You can combine them. It's not that far.
No.
Yeah, a few hours. Yeah.
No, it isn't. It's actually it's the nearest point in America to come to, really, isn't it? So,
yeah. And I'm close. I'm only 3-hour drive from New York City.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Well, oh, thank you. Honestly, what time is it there?
It's 11:12.
Oh, okay. Well, I better let you get on with the start of your day because we've got to put all the jewels to bed now because we're shutting for the day.
All right. Well, I'm going to get started. I've had my coffee at least. Yeah.
Oh, well, Sarah, honestly, I hope I haven't dragged up and taken too much of your time. I really enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me and for hosting this. And well, send me messages.
I'm going to be doing, not yet because I've got a few other things going on, but I'm hoping to be doing some jewelry podcasts.
Oh, great.
And I'd love you to be a guest on that. And
I'd love that.
We could really get down to some nitty gritty of, you know, some really talking about specific periods and some real hardcore subjects in jewelry. Okay. So I don't know if anyone will be interested. But,
they will be.
I'll talk to you about that in the future.
Yeah, they will be. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Bye,
Victoria.
Sarah.
Bye. Bye.
Hi, everyone. So I've just taken Sarah off. I really hope that you enjoyed our chat and that you found it interesting. I know that I certainly found it interesting. So many points that we covered. There were other questions I was going to ask Sarah, but I see it's 4:10 already and we've got to shut soon. So I thought, poor Sarah, she's, you know, it's first thing in the morning there. She probably wanted to get on with her day. But as I said, I'm definitely going to chat to her again in the future, maybe when I start doing my podcasts. But anyway, I hope you have all enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me. And I can't think who I've got next week, but I've definitely got someone else booked in for next week. I will let you know in the week, but have a wonderful weekend. It's bank holiday weekend this weekend. Oh, another bank holiday. Keep getting bank holidays. But anyway, I will be back again for Friarhouse next Friday. I'm signing off now. See you later, everyone. Bye.